month on the Deep Rooted podcast. We're Jeff and Rochelle, and we're excited to be talking about marriage. Had a lot of fun. The last podcast, kind of introing, and if you didn't hear it, pause and head back.
Head back to episode 1. This is episode 2. I tell you what
of the marriage. I mean, we've been going for like over a year.
About 37 to be exact.
Oh, is it? Okay.
But this will be 38. I'm sorry. This will be 38.
Either way.
But and what a great! It's always a great time to talk about marriage. But in our culture right now, we need to talk about not just marriage, but healthy marriage as God designed it. So I think this is an incredible moment to think about your marriage, to think about and asking God, can you
your future marriage?
Yeah, your future marriage. I think it's a powerful
your
time
kids'
to think
future
about that.
marriage.
Yeah.
Marriage matters,
Mm-hmm.
even if you say, "Well, I'm not married and I don't plan on being married." Marriage matters to our culture, and we could talk about a whole lot of that. That's not the direction we're going,
right?
But hey, last time we talked about our story, talking about some values, and so check that out. But today we're talking in some of the intentional patterns, and I want to say patterns because I think it's important. It's not things that we strive to do, but these are things that some of them we've been doing for 17 years, some maybe a little less. We are about ready to celebrate 17 years of marriage here in a few short days. And so some of these we've been doing even before we were married. And then some of these started taking place when we had children and at different stages of life. But I really believe the patterns create behaviors, and those behaviors will yield results. They'll yield outcomes. So
I really believe these patterns become behaviors which give freedom to the marriage. When you say patterns, be like, oh man, I don't want to be constricted. This gives freedom to the marriage, gives structure. I would say brings so much joy to the marriage.
Yes, but not even just, it affects everybody we encounter.
Everybody.
I think that's a misnomer that people think, well, if I have a bad marriage, it's not impacting everything else. I would say, newsflash, when you have something that's unhealthy, a portion of your life, it will spill over into other portions. Mm-hmm. It can't be contained into just one little area. And so on the reverse, when something's healthy, it will pour over into other areas, and it'll make other areas more healthy. So we're going to talk about some patterns. We've written some down, so we might look down here again, here and there, just to talk about it, but let's do it.
All right, so the first one I want to talk about is we go to sleep at the same time. We go to sleep at the same time. You say, what matters? And I would say this matters intensely. And the reason this matters intensely is because that means that we are on the same rhythm in life. We're talking.
It really talks to our same schedule.
Yes.
We've oriented our lives to be one. So, it's not like, oh man, I'm a night owl. I'm going to stay up till midnight. Well, you go to bed at 9.
Yeah.
That I don't think that's ever happened. I can't really even think of it. I can't think. Well, maybe when we had kids, like we'd put them to bed and then I might have to get up if they were, feeding them. But not really. We would, even when we had children, we intentionally had our children start going to bed at the same times, so that we would have the evenings together. It's really important, and connected with that topic of going to bed at the same time. There has not been a night in 17 years, and I think we did this even over the phone when we were dating. I don't remember all of that, but I know for sure in marriage, there's not been a night that we haven't prayed together before we've gone to sleep. That's a pattern that's set up.
Yeah.
So even if
you can't do that when you don't go to bed at the same time.
Yeah. Really. So even when the rare occasion with you've been out of town for, your doctoral studies or whatever, every night before we, even on the phone.
And I'll say this, I think part of this is because I really don't think a lot of alone time, for example, if I was just to be by myself alone to midnight, 1 a.m, I don't think that's good. Now, I will say this. I think it's different than solitude. Solitude is a spiritual discipline where we go away, hear from the Lord. I'm talking about idle time where I'm just, watching whatever.
playing
doing
video games.
whatever. Well, I will say this: we don't have a. Well, actually, we do have a video game system in Super Nintendo
From when I was a kid,
because our kids like playing Mario Kart.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
I will admit to that, and we play with them, but we don't, because I don't think that's good for each. To spend a lot of alone time, idle time.
Yes. Now, we have separate interests. There are things that we do, like you don't go to the cooking classes that I go to, or, that's not to say you surrender your personality or
Absolutely
you say,
not.
I don't do anything. But when you get married, you're choosing to do life together with somebody. I think a lot of people can tend to think, let's get married and I'll continue my own life the way that I continued it.
And that will not work.
It will not be healthy.
That will not work.
When the Bible speaks to this a lot about you become one. You become your goals, your aspirations, the things you do, the way you spend your time. And so going to bed together every night at the same time, bringing our lives into the same rhythm, I really believe has made a large difference. And some of this is kind of similar to that. We don't go on vacations alone. We operate as a family. We do things together, and making decisions are joint.
We make decisions
efforts.
Together.
Yes.
Yeah. I just think that's a pretty. I just think that's a healthy thing. Now,
okay. Now we probably should talk about this a little bit, because I feel like that'd be like, okay.
You can't. Never mind.
What?
Go ahead.
You're gonna do something funny. So, for example, do we have limits of how much money we can spend at one time without talking to one another?
I have yet to hear of a policy.
I don't think we have that.
We don't.
No,
we don't.
We don't. We don't have like, okay, you if we're gonna spend over $50, let's talk. I would feel so constricted by that. I feel I would feel persecuted.
I want to give you freedom.
No, I'm just teasing. No, but
now for showing off and bought a house, or or a car, or a big we just talk about those things.
Yeah. So anything that's large, we talk about before we do it. And I wouldn't do that. And
it's really
I don't
not
think
a
you do
legalistic
that.
thing
No,
that either of us feel like, I better ask with so-and-so or check in with so-and-so. Okay, we're married. We're not parenting each other.
But I think that comes back to a larger place that you and I have the same goals for money. For example, we use money here. So we operate from a principle of we tithe. First 10%,
Absolutely.
not even ours. We've done that in the entirety of our marriage.
And that's a joint decision. That's not like, you want to do this, so I'm going to maybe go along with it, or vice versa.
Well, and maybe I should even say from the front end, all of our money is together.
Yes.
There's not his money or my money. It's our money. We have the same goals. So tithing, giving to missions above and beyond the 10% has characterized our life. And then we have the same goals. We don't want to be in debt. We don't live beyond our means. We pay off our bills every month and save and things like that. And so it doesn't create a lot of conflict because our goals are the same. Now, if the goals were different, I could see where that would
there'd
come
be
up
a lot
with
of conflict. Yeah.
And then there would be, well, why are you spending this? And there would be a lot of...
so it's not a money issue. It's really a goal issue.
It's a goal issue. It comes back to having the same objectives.
Yes.
And so we have like financial goals of, okay, in 5 years, we'd like to be at this place and things like that. And so we know that we make decisions based off those goals. And so, again, coming back to being one and having the same mindset, I don't know, having the same perspective.
I like this one pattern we have, and that is we check in with each other throughout the day. Again, none of these are I would say, legalistic things that we have written down that we say, okay, we need to do this X times. This is just in the fabric of our life.
If anybody knows me, we don't have this list written down. If anybody,
so I never took Rochelle aside, or she never took me aside and said, can you check in with me 3 times because I really want to know where you are. No, this comes from a place of we love each other, we care about each other, and sometimes we'll text or call, say, hey, how's it going?
Yeah. How's your day going? What's going on? Hey, this is what's happening tonight. What time are you going to be back? Or can you pick up a child here? All of that. So there's a lot of communication from front to back. And I think that really helps alleviate maybe stress or opportunities for conflict because there's a lot of communication.
We generally know where each other is throughout the day, the schedules throughout the day generally. So when I come home, I'm not walking in having a different agenda than,
Right.
So
we've talked about our week. And part of that is not just daily, but it's also planning out, what does this week look like? What does this month look like? So we're in the month of April. It's marriage month here on the podcast. But beyond that, it's a busy month for us.
Yeah.
It's a busy month.
Yep.
So you have Easter. So if you're a pastor, you've got Easter.
It's a pretty busy
That's
time.
a pretty busy time. Yeah. We have 3 different sports that our kids are involved in this month, and all the juggling of track meets and soccer games. And I'm coaching some of them. And so, we have to juggle some of that. We're working.
We do have jobs.
You're finishing your doctoral presentation this month. I mean, that's a big deal that's happening. At the end of the month is my graduation for my master's degree. So it's a busy month. There is a lot going on.
Absolutely.
And so we have had literally hey, let's schedule a time for 20 minutes to sit down and talk about what's coming up. Yeah. And we've actually, I feel, even done a little bit better lately about this. So
I'm proud of us.
I know. I feel
better.
Yeah, godly proud about it. Just looking even further ahead and saying, okay, we're planning stuff for the fall. We're doing a lot of that kind of stuff. And I think it really has given us freedom. For me, it's given me freedom.
It is. It's freedom to say, okay, this is what's happening. This is what's coming up in the fall.
I think it really helps you and I to not have conflict over schedule when we take the time. And so it doesn't have to be horrible, but just having a few moments to hey, where are we at in our schedules? Are we accomplishing all the things that we need to? Because life can just take over if we're not aware.
And again, I think it's a goal issue. Again, it's not like we said earlier, a money issue. In this case, time issue. It's we still have the same goals about how we want to spend our time. And so that's a core thing too. Okay,
so we've talked a lot of patterns. We've got a few more, but we talked about going to bed at the same time, planning our calendar, checking in with each other during the day, vacations, things like that. Let's talk about conflict.
Wonderful. Hey, let's do it.
You want to have some conflict right here?
We're going to stage a conflict. No, with conflict, I think we have a pattern that we generally resolve conflict very quickly. Now, when I say quickly, I'm not meaning like within 5 minutes or 10 minutes. No, we have conversations, and we say the difficult things when we need to. I really believe that.
We had a conversation this week.
We had a conversation this week. Believe it or not.
We did. And just really in preparation for this podcast, though. We really wanted to be sharp for our viewers.
You know what? That's good. You didn't realize I was doing that. Never mind, before we go into another one.
No, just teasing.
No, but we do it. And what I mean by that is we don't have these conflicts that last. I really believe, do not let the sun go down on your anger. I do. Scripturally, I think that's powerful.
Yes.
But these, we don't have conflicts that last days.
But it's also knowing about timing. Mm-hmm. So I used to balk at this. I did.
And I didn't know about timing this week, by the way. Anyway.
No, I used to balk at this because I am more of a personality of, well, I just, if I feel it, I need to say it. I need to get it out. And I at times have felt like that maybe it's disingenuous to look for the right opportunity to say that. I have realized the error of my ways. I'm still realizing it, that it's not just about sharing what you feel, but it's also being considerate of what the other person has maybe had to do that day or things like that. So kind of letting into a little bit of a pastor's perspective, there are things that are stressful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there are. That's a pretty good statement.
We won't go into all of those, but so for example, funerals. Mm-hmm. You do a lot of funerals. Mm-hmm. You've done a lot of funerals. It is not a rote task. It's an emotional thing. It's a spiritual exercise. It's an emotional exercise. It's not just the family who's grieving. I mean, it impacts our family I'm not saying it's the same. I understand It's not the same as everybody else, but when somebody from our congregation passes, anyways, I won't go into all of that, but I may not bring up a conflict issue. Maybe on that time when you're preparing for a funeral, I might sit there and think, wow, he has a lot on his plate. Let me talk to him about that tomorrow. That takes that's me thinking about the other person, but it's also, I have to push down my own self-centeredness because I want to just say things when I want to say them. I mean, I'll just be honest. And it's not disingenuous. It's respectful.
I think that's powerful. And you said a key thing there, self-centeredness. I think that's powerful, and that's powerful because in any kind of conflict, I never do this, by the way, but we can reorient everything back to it's about me or how I feel. And I think it's so powerful when we begin to look to the needs of others above our own. And I think that's the principle here.
Even in marriage.
In marriage. Absolutely. Especially.
Well, sometimes we read those scriptures and we think that person out there.
Right.
But I don't have to do that in my own home.
Yeah. Exactly.
Untrue. So resolving conflicts quickly.
Yep.
That has been a goal. And dealing even with things that maybe aren't just solvable in a day, but not letting them become lingering. I don't know, hovering over the atmosphere of our marriage, dealing with it. Some things can't be solved in a day, but you can make progress.
Yeah, you can. It's not good to live in a state of tension and conflict.
Yes. Okay, absolutely. So resolving conflict quickly. Another one that we're just trying to think of the major stressors in marriage: conflict, schedule, things. Timing. One of them is parenting philosophy. And if you think, well, my husband and I will agree with everything about raising kids, there will come things where you will disagree.
Right.
And that's good. You will need to work out, okay, what do we stand for? So what do the Fergusons stand for? Not what is Jeff, what is Rochelle, but we're one. So how are we going to parent? What is our parenting philosophy? And believe it or not, I think a real good pattern is that we actually talked about this before we were married. We talked about this, before we had kids, even when we were married, trying to create a philosophy together.
Yeah, and it can't be this hidden thing where there's frustration, but nobody says anything about it, about how each other is doing things as far as being parents. Just talk about it. It has to be overt, to talk about it, because parenting is stressful. Parenting divided is more stressful and could be catastrophic.
Oh, yeah.
Very catastrophic. And so we have to parent as, again, a united front.
And a big thing here is that is infiltrating homes all across America, probably the world, is child-centered homes. And we made, we're not perfect, but we made the decision that we're not going to have a child-centered home. We're going to have a God-centered home. And there's an order, and our kids don't run the show. And that's important. But if you felt that it was a child-centered home and then I didn't, or vice versa, there would be continual conflict because our philosophies would be different. So we talked about number of children that we would have. We talked about that.
Yep, we did.
We talked about how we would raise them. Would we send them to daycare or not? We talked about
all those
schooling.
Things.
What is the plan? And that's a whole nother podcast, and I'd love to talk about that. We can't go into all of that.
We can do that sometime, but not today.
Please, I think we should, because I think it'd be really fun. That's a big deal. How are you going to parent? What's your discipline strategies? Things like that. Because if one parent's super, I'm just going to let you in. Your kids will try to divide and conquer you.
They will. Don't let them.
No, and
that's true.
But it's just the nature. It's the nature, and my, they won't.
They will not.
No, but if we've had disagreements, I've said, well, I don't agree with that statement you made. We do that together. And then
and generally not in front of them, I don't think. I don't know.
Yeah, because I think that creates
that would be anyway.
But we're real,
Yeah.
so maybe we have probably. I don't know.
I'm sure I've made a mistake.
Yeah. You're a perfect parent. Okay. In that same vein, one of the patterns that we have set up is we eat dinner together every night as a family.
Yep.
And some of you are like, every night? Every night.
And I'll just say this, lest you have this picture of everybody, we break out the china and everybody, and it's just, I'm at the head or whoever. I don't know. It's
like
just,
slicing a turkey? Is that kind of what you're...
Yeah, Rochelle's slicing the turkey.
I
I'm
was thinking
slicing
you were.
the turkey. I don't really know. Nobody trusts me with that. But anyway, no.
No.
Okay,
No.
So here's the bottom line. Here's the main thing about is that we are together. Mm-hmm. In the same spot, in the same place.
Yes.
I think maybe those are the two big things. I mean, time is going to...
involved.
There's food involved. Time is going to vary because of activities and sports and church schedule and things.
Yeah, like
And
even this month, we've had some days we're eating at 4:30 and some days we're eating at 7.
Yeah.
Now, we're not eating at 10 o'clock at night. If
Right.
we're eating at that time...
something
might be awry.
Yeah.
And again, I understand our kids aren't at driving age, but we have been parents for 13 years, and we have this pattern set up. We don't intend on breaking that pattern.
Yeah.
It's important. There's a lot that we learn at the dinner table.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
not sitting and watching a movie while we all eat in silence or things like that. We're sitting together. Now, sometimes we're sitting at the counter and we're sitting kind of next to each other. Sometimes we don't sit at the table. We sit at the counter because it's easier to clean up.
And you actually just started to be able to sit down.
Yeah, for like many years, I would stand
as a mom,
because I was just
what
like
we're
getting every.
talking
I was like, I'm not even gonna sit. I'm just gonna stand and face the family at the counter. But we finally got five. We have like a bigger counter now, so we can.
I
fit
offered
5.
to stand, but you would have.
Well, I'm good. I like standing, but so eating to dinner together every night. And the last pattern. Now there are more patterns,
There's
but
more.
you have to limit it.
Yeah.
And I think this one might be one of the most important.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought of another one.
Go for it, just so that I'm not gonna.
Okay.
What is
Okay. So, they go together.
Okay.
But the pattern that we had written down as the last one is that we are in church every Sunday and every Wednesday.
And you may say this. Well, of course you are. You are pastors, so where else are you gonna be? Okay, we're pastors. I'll give you that. But we go to church when we're on vacation. We go to church when we're out of town. We go to church. You go to church on Sundays. You go to church on Wednesdays. Let me tell you just a story. My first 5 years ago, my first class in Springfield for my doctoral class, I'm in class.
You had to leave for 5 days.
5
it's
days.
Monday through Friday.
I'm gone Monday through Friday. We're in class 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So
yeah.
9 hours a day. So Wednesday comes, and I'm kind of tired. I'm thinking, you know what? I don't know. I'm just gonna maybe chill out. Rochelle calls me, and then Madeline gets on the phone. She's 5 years ago.
So
she
she's
said,
like
"Hey,
8 or
Daddy."
something, yeah.
I said, "Hey." She said, "Where are you gonna go to church tonight?" And I said, I don't know if I was gonna go tonight. She said, "Well, if you were here, you'd go to church." And no joke, I went to church that night, and it was powerful. Here's our family knows these patterns.
Yeah, like it is a normal pattern. It would be abnormal.
Yes.
Very abnormal to get out of that pattern. And I don't want to get out of that pattern. Right. I'm going to tell you, if we cease to be pastors tomorrow, that would still be our pattern.
Still be in church. Yeah.
It would still be our pattern. I believe that my kids need to be in the local church more than once a week. I believe that. We go to Sunday school. We're there. And it sets a pattern for our kids. I mean, we need it. I'm not, there's nothing about it that I'm saying we don't need it, but we're talking about setting a pattern for our kids.
Yeah.
We wonder why kids are leaving the church. Well, I'm thinking, were they ever in it to begin with?
Yeah.
Were they really there?
It needs to be a habit.
It has to be a weekly habit.
Yes.
Your kids go to school every day.
Yep.
They need to be going to church every week.
Absolutely.
And so in conjunction with that, every night we tuck our kids into bed.
Yes.
And we pray with them. And we talked about us praying every night. But every night, our kids I mean, we have it. Sometimes it becomes a long routine.
Yes.
But it's praying for them and hugs and kisses. One more. I think they're just trying to avoid going to sleep.
Yeah.
But at that point, I don't care. I want to give them a hug and a kiss. But they know we're going to pray. And
every night. Yeah.
That is essential.
That's a powerful moment too. I mean,
that's when we hear things. We hear things
yeah.
as parents of, oh, well, this happened at school today, or I didn't like this, or I felt really cool when this happened. And those are powerful moments when you're with your kids. And so these patterns are not things that we write down and check off. Like, they're just literally so much part of life that we don't even.
They're just part of who we are.
They don't recognize. So that's really when we're talking about with character.
Yes.
It takes a while for things to build, like patterns, but once you've been doing them, you don't even have to think about them. And I think that's the intentionality of marriage. Yes, we have conflict. I mean, we talked about it. We have conflict, but there is security and there are patterns and there's knowing, and we deal with it and we move forward. And I think those patterns really make a difference.
And they feed off each other, like that one. Have conflict. Well, I know we're going to bed at the same time in the same place regardless.
And we're going to have to pray.
Think about that.
So you have to somewhat be okay with somebody to be able to pray with them. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
At least I do. I'm not a good faker with praying.
Can't fake stuff. I'm just not good. So... But I really believe the patterns you set up are going to bring freedom to your family, freedom to your life. And I believe they're life-changing, especially and only if they're founded on God's Word.
And it's never too late to begin a pattern.
Never.
So you might think, oh my goodness, I missed the first 10 years of our marriage doing this, or I missed the first 10 years of parenting to do this. It is never too late to set up a pattern. So I believe you can do it. And join in next week when we talk about the outside influences and how to manage the outside influences. So we're talking extended family, we're talking work, we're talking all the things that seek to distract you from the goal that God has for you in your marriage. So
we will see you next time here on the Deep Rooted Podcast. Thanks for joining us.